we have to start thinking of aging differently. And Deborah is definitely one of those people who makes us think of aging differently and taking care of ourselves at each age and staying interested in things and curious.
Hi, welcome to Resonate, Conversations and Life Lessons from Rancho La Puerta. I'm your host, Barry. It's hard to believe, but we launched our very first Resonate podcast exactly a year ago. It was my interview with our co-founder, Deborah Szekely, on the eve of her 102nd birthday. I thought it'd be fun to talk to her again now as she's turning 103. What did she learn this year, and what are her thoughts on turning 103? And then my special guest on today's podcast is Chaz Ebert. Chaz has known Deborah for many years, first as a guest at the Golden Door, and then she's been to the ranch many times with her late husband, Roger Ebert, who is a frequent presenter at Rancho La Puerta. Chaz herself is a lawyer, she's a businesswoman, she's a producer of film and television, and recently an author releasing her first book called It's Time to Give a FECK, F-E-C-K, which stands for Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. Just past fall, at the Chicago Film Festival, Chaz released her first documentary. It's called Wellness Warrior, and it's all about our very own Deborah Szekely. I really look forward to today's podcast. Hi, Deborah. How are you today?
Very, very, very well.
It's so good to spend time with you again. So last year, we launched Resonate, the podcast, and it's already been a year. It's hard to believe, but our first one was my interview with you when you turned 102, and now here we are a year later. And today's podcast will be mostly with Chaz Ebert, who did a documentary on your life called Wellness Warrior. So I thought it'd be fun for our listeners to check in with you now, a year later, as you turn 103. So do you have any thoughts on turning 103?
I look more to the future than just the fact that I'm turning 103. I don't feel any different. So it's very hard to, I still feel very well and my schedule is just the same. Back and forth between the ranch and San Diego. What I do feel better about is I decided to live an exceptionally long life. And that means that I'm not planning on traveling or doing anything that is taxing, that needs extra energy. So I'm going to support my body as my friend, because I'm the boss. And I decided, yes, we are going to live an exceptionally long life because that's one way I can help the ranch.
Most people, Deborah, would say you have lived an exceptionally long life so far.
Well, I want it to be more special.
Well, it is special. So, there are more and more people living to be over 100 these days. So,
Pretty common.
It is. So what does joy look like for you in this past year?
Well, I've always said you have to have really good friends, a few of them. You don't need tons. Mm-hmm. And I really do enjoy being with my friends. And since they're all younger, when they discuss their problems, I learn a lot. They all became teachers.
That's wonderful. So do you still enjoy theater, music, opera?
Every bit. I have opera tickets and it's front of my calendar for this Saturday. And so that's the opera tickets. And I see every single play at the Globe Theater that they produce. These are just plushes. They're lovely options, but they add color and interest and conversation with friends.
Right.
But still, friends is number one.
And I know you come to the ranch every week. On Tuesdays, you do a presenter's dinner with all of our presenters. And then on Wednesday, we do our interview together for the guests where we answer questions. Does that bring you joy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because I know what's going on. I like to know.
This is maybe a tricky question, but if you could relive one day in your life because of the joy of that day, can you think of a day that you would want to relive?
I never look back. I'm always looking ahead. It would be probably an Easter with the it's Easter now.
Uh-huh.
Easter with the children, Easter egg hunt. I had a
Oh,
traditional huge Easter egg hunt that the kids from all our neighbors came.
right.
And it was fun because the parents came to watch it. And in some of the Easter eggs were $5 bills, and one had, I think, a 20 or 50, I don't know. But there was, a few prizes of different things that they got in their Easter eggs. And nobody could tell one from the other. I could not
Right.
either. And it was a highlight.
I'm not sure how much you keep up with the world scene, but this is a more global question. What do you think the world needs more of right now?
Well, the world needs more love.
Oh,
Love between people, love between countries, love between just more consideration and thoughtfulness and looking ahead, more security.
that's beautiful. So what advice would you give, since there's estimated to be more and more people living to be 100 and beyond? What advice would you give someone who to enjoy these bonus years that people are getting?
Don't worry about anything you can't do anything for or about or change. I mean, it's just negative thoughts produce negative energy. I mean, it just doesn't go well with you. So you just don't worry about things you can't do anything about. Where you can do something about, you can worry and do something.
Right.
There's so much in this world going on, and that is beyond your ability to change.
Right. Yeah. Just our internal environments, right? We can change. So what goes on inside of each of us. So do you have plans for your 103rd birthday? You're going to be here at the ranch, aren't you?
Yes, and it starts every morning with the mañanitas, which is very special. And people who worked for me 50 years ago come to this party. Hundreds and hundreds of hugs and hugs and hugs and hugs. 2 hours straight hugging people.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And then we'll be having a cake and a toast at dinner with all the ranch guests. So it's going to be fun.
And the morning with the mañanitas, the mariachis are there. And what I look forward to is people who haven't worked for me for 20, 30, 40 years out there.
Yeah.
That's really special.
It is really
Really
special.
special.
We're going to get into the podcast now, and thanks for spending time checking in with us. And I speak for a lot of people that I am so glad that you are living a longer life, because you're a light on the planet and you're a light in my life. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Very, very welcome.
And where are you coming from today? Are you in Chicago?
Yes, I'm in Chicago today.
Here at the ranch, of course. When I was reading your bio, I was amazed. Like, you're a businesswoman, you're a lawyer, producer, an author, and recently a director for the first time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It really feels strange. I was at the Chicago International Film Festival where our film was going to show, and they asked the filmmakers and the audience to stand up. And I'm so used to being on the other side, the media side, that I didn't. And someone poked me and said, "That's you." And I thought, okay, right?
Yeah.
I guess it is now. Now I'm a director.
A director, and it was your first time directing, right? And you directed a documentary?
Yes. I directed a documentary called Wellness Warrior about Deborah Szekely. And, it was really a labor of love. It was something, every time I would go to the ranch or to the Golden Door, there would be all these women there who we all admired Deborah so much. And people would say, we should do a movie about Deborah. We all said, okay, but these were women who actually worked at maybe studios in Hollywood, or who were producers, who had financial backers who could greenlight a project. And so I would always just say, okay. They would say, will you help us? And I said, yeah, but you should take the lead because you're the one who has the money or the studio. And I'd come back to the ranch or to the Golden Door, and we'd see Deborah, and people would say, oh, I would ask, you didn't contact me. Have you started the movie about Deborah? And they would say no. And one time I was there with my daughter, Sonia, who is also the vice president of development of our company. She said, I'm going to speak to you both as Chaz, my business partner, and as mom, my mother. She said, you always taught us if you want to get something done, do it yourself. Mm-hmm. And you should do it. You should make the movie. I said, no, I'm not. I don't have a studio. I have a production company. But she said, you can do it. Just get started. And so I said, okay. And that's how it came about.
How long ago was that when you first decided to actually start making the documentary?
I think my daughter confronted me in around 2018, and I started just maybe one quick interview or something. So it's been going on for a while.
And so if our listeners are new to the podcast, she's talking about Deborah Szekely, which is the co-founder of Rancho La Puerta and the founder of the Golden Door Spa. She's considered the godmother of the spa industry, actually.
Yes.
Deborah is 102 now. Do you know any other centurions?
In the film, I have two women who are not quite centenarians. They are 95, either 94 and a half or 95. Uh-huh. And I wanted Deborah to meet them, and she did get a chance to meet one of them when she came to Chicago for the premiere of the film. But the other one, she didn't get to meet because, believe it or not, on the same day, a woman who was 102 years old was being celebrated at the same time that the 95-year-old was being celebrated, getting an award downtown in Chicago, and that's why she couldn't come to meet Deborah. And just the thought of it, that these two women, deserving women and older women, were being celebrated the same day was just satisfying. One of the women in the film, her name is Marion Thompson. She was the founder or co-founder of La Leche League, which is the breastfeeding organization that is now all over the world. And this was her idea, Marion Thompson, and she admired Deborah so much. And she said that La Leche League, I think, was started maybe 60 years ago. And she said even at that time, she had heard of Deborah Szekely, and she had never been to Rancho La Puerta or the Golden Door, but she was so happy that another woman in her space was doing things about health and fitness and wellness, because that's also what La Leche League, that was there, in addition to teaching women to breastfeed, because it made the babies healthier, it made the mothers healthier too. And she said that wellness and fitness was always something that she very much was an advocate for.
Do you remember what year you actually met Deborah for the first time?
I was trying to think about that, because in the film, I think I said I had known her for over 35 years. I think I first met Deborah in either 1988 or 1989. But the first time I heard of her was when I was 15 years old and I was in high school, because when I was in high school, I don't know why, I used to fill out all of these forms to get things by mail. And I saw something about Rancho La Puerta in a magazine, and maybe like a teen magazine or something. And I wrote to get a packet of materials. And back then, they used to put together this beautiful packet of postcards. You would get a whole stack of postcards tied with a ribbon. It was so beautiful. And it was embossed with a Mexican motif. And you could take one postcard and it would tell you, one postcard may have the activities that were going to take place at the ranch that day. One postcard may have a recipe. One postcard may have something about someone who was going to be a guest there. They were just so beautiful. And so I used to always get these things from Rancho La Puerta. And I said, one day I'm going there.
Okay.
I'm going to go to that spa. It was like in my head from the
think we
time
lost
I was in
connection
high
there.
school. And at the time, there was no way I could have afforded to go to a spa like that. But I remember saying, one day I'm going to go there. Because it was these cars so beautiful, and then looking at the mountains and the activities and the healthy food and the classes. I think there must have been like so many classes that it was just my dream to one day go to Rancho La Puerta. Y también back then in high school, I spoke Spanish. I took Spanish for 4 years. So also I wanted to go to a place where I could probably
Practice.
habla español if I wanted to. Yeah, there were many reasons I wanted to go to the ranch.
And then you made it there for the first time in the 80s?
I made it there in, like, I think it was,
Yeah.
it could be 87, 88, 89, 19, yeah.
And did you meet Deborah the first visit?
I must have, because Deborah used to lecture
Yeah, she used to. Well, she still does.
regularly, like almost every day. And I remember Deborah lecturing on how she liked to reinvent herself every 10 years, which was like a novel concept to me. Someone who said they wanted to reinvent themselves every 10 years. What was that? And I remember Deborah used to bring these notebooks that she would write in her notebook about her goals and aspirations and her schedule of meeting the goals, all of these things. She was just so dynamic. And I was just so impressed with her.
What was a couple of the main things that inspired you to decide to write a story about her life? Is there any certain things that really inspired you about her particularly?
The truth of the matter is, I used to hear so many people, even when I first started going to the ranch and the Golden Door, and even over the years as I would go, I always heard people talk about the professor. And the professor was such a great visionary, and he was. And I don't take that from him. But by the time I went there, the professor wasn't there. It was Deborah. So I would think, why don't I hear more people talking about Deborah and not just the professor? And I thought, here we're doing it again in history. We have this great resource. And yes, it was started by both a man and a woman. But this woman, all these years, it's been evolving from what it was originally. And that's because of Deborah. And I wanted more people to know her story. So that was it. It was very simple. I just felt that history's never going to forget her, but I hadn't seen everything all in one place and where she was the main thrust of what she had created in the world of fitness. And so that's why I wanted there to be a movie about her.
And I know when you talked about Deborah's, she always does want to reinvent herself. Yeah. And at 60, she went to Washington, D.C. and worked there for 17 years and created a whole different type of career then. I find that super inspiring too.
She's 102. At 60, I'm sure at 60, she wasn't thinking one day I'm going to be 102. At 60, she was probably thinking, I've already lived so much of my life. What is there for me to do now? And her always having what she called her grasshopper mind, that just, she's a visionary. You know, Hilda Rudolph, who ran the boutique at the Golden Door for years, says in the movie, in your life, you are lucky if you meet even one genius. And she said in her life, she knows that Deborah was the genius that she met. That's true. And it's really, sometimes when you meet someone who is such a visionary, if they're humble like Deborah is, and she doesn't go around just promoting herself, you can minimize it or overlook it. But when you look at all the things that she's done in her life, like at 60, she goes to Washington. she goes to run for Congress. She doesn't win, but she looks around and she says, if I had won, what booklet or pamphlet or what instruction booklet is there to tell me how to be a good congressperson or even just how to set up my office? And it did not exist. It didn't even exist. Nothing. So what did she do? She pulled people together and put one together, Setting Course. And that's the book that's still used in Congress today. I don't know how many editions, 17th edition or something. And as I was thinking about her during the presidential elections recently and thinking about what it took for her to go and do something that's really nonpartisan like this, but something that really benefits the whole country because it benefits everyone who comes in and gets Setting Course and they can figure out how to set up their office and what to do. And she wanted to make it more efficient. What kind of mind thinks of something like that? To go from her place of wellness and spa, go to Washington, run, and then give us this lasting document that's still in use today. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, and then to be president of the Inter-American Foundation for many years too. So
I wish, so this documentary I made, I have to let you know, it's only the first step of it. It's a 45-minute short that was accepted at the Chicago Film Festival. And because Deborah's 102 and I didn't know when I was going to finish the whole thing, I said, okay, let's do the short. 45 minutes is a pretty decent length. And the things she did as president of the Inter-American Foundation were incredible. She gave microloans to women and organizations in Central and South America. She helped with digging wells and building things and creating communities and things that, who does that? Who does that?
yeah,
I mean, and I think it's Peter Jensen in the film who says, at first she was resented, like, who is this spa lady who's coming in to tell us how to run a non-governmental organization that's really an organization of the government? But it was Deborah, and she looked around, she saw a need that needed to be filled, and she just did it without asking permission.
yeah. I think that's one of her strengths is to see a need and find a way to fill that need for sure.
Yes.
My name is Alexandra Hardy, and I'm from Portland, Oregon. This is my third time at the ranch, and every time I'm here, I discover something special. I think the first time I came by myself, I had very good timing. It was about 3.5 weeks before COVID lockdown, and I needed to get away, but not knowing that we were all going to be locked up for a while. It's just a very special place. I mean, the setting, Mount Kuchuma, the hiking trails. But as beautiful as the setting is, what I would probably say I like most about this place is the people. The Bennett sisters, Connie and Coco, Barry, Rebecca, who taught me Pilates, and then the people that you meet here, and all these people and their wonderful stories. It's just a very, very special place.
I hope you're enjoying today's podcast as much as I am. To learn more about our wonderful presenters and exciting weeks coming up at the ranch, go to rancholapuerta.com and check out our events calendar. Make sure to mention the podcast when making your reservation to take advantage of a special offer. Some restrictions may apply. Can you think of one or two things from Deborah that has inspired you the most? Something she might have said to you or something she's done that you find super inspiring?
The fact that reinventing herself, because maybe it's because I was a trial attorney at one time. And as with some other trial attorneys in school and college and in high school, I was in the drama club. And I think there are lots of us people who were trial attorneys who are also dramatic in life. And so I think that people should have an opportunity to invent themselves. And if something you're doing is not what you want to do at the moment, reinvent yourself. So Deborah was the first person I ever heard say that. And when she said she reinvented herself every 10 years, I thought, who is this woman who not only does it, but has the audacity to tell us? And so that made a big impression on me.
Right.
The other thing is Deborah's kindness, and actually the fact that she's also shy. My late husband, Roger Ebert, never went to the Golden Door, but he loved Rancho La Puerta. And he and Deborah met, and they just loved each other. I just know they got along so well together. And Deborah would ask him to come and speak. She was still getting a lot of awards and much younger when I first met her. And so she would ask him to come and introduce or do an introduction when she was getting an awards. And he was always happy to do it because he and Deborah just loved each other. When he was sick, he had a cancer that returned, and then he had a catastrophic illness that caused him to lose his ability to speak. And he was in the hospital for almost a year, I think from 2006 to 2007. And he had to, so after that, after being bedridden, he had to learn to walk again in a rehabilitation center. Deborah and all of the people at Rancho La Puerta were so kind and so warm. All of you used to send like little gift packages to the hospital or little notes. And I would sit by his hospital bed and read each one to him. And it meant so much to him. And he told me that when he was in bed at night, when he was at his lowest point as far as energy and illness was concerned, he used to, in his mind, take the walk. I think it was up to Alex's Oak at Rancho La Puerta. And he said he knew almost every grain of sand on that walk, every piece of foliage in the mountainside, every rock and boulder on that, and he, in his mind, over and over. He was at a point where he couldn't walk. He was in bed, but in his mind, he said he made that walk up the mountainside. And so when he got strong enough, when he was out of the hospital, Deborah came back to the ranch to take that walk with him.
I have very fond memories of your husband as well. And he was such a charismatic, great speaker, and he was super funny too. I don't think people realize how funny he was. And one of my favorite lessons I learned from him is he said he's world famous movie critic, but he said, you don't have to agree with me. If you hate everything I say, then I'm good for you, because anything I like, you just don't go see. So he was very open and
not
warm
ego-driven,
and caring.
And he just wanted to share his knowledge with the world. Well, ego in the sense that with Siskel and Ebert, you wouldn't have become two of the most world famous film critics without having some sort of ego. But they would clash with each other. But with the audience, he just wanted to share his love of movies and his love of literature and his love for the world, because he had a joy. That's the other thing I love about Deborah, her joy for the world, and just her joy in being alive, and her joy in being able to share what she can share with the world. I love that. The other thing that I admire about her is that she doesn't seem to just ask permission. And so Roger used to call her bossy. He said, you're bossy. That's why you get things done. You don't ask permission. You just go and do them. You have an idea, and whether you think it's good or bad, if you think it's something that should be done, you just go do it. And so I admired that audacity.
I admire that about her too. Do it. If it didn't work out, apologize later. But if you don't know until you try it and do it, right? So,
and okay, you're making me think of so many things, because when she was here, I got a chance to spend a lot of time with her. She wanted to go to the Art Institute, especially to the Japan House at the Art Institute, because so many things at the Golden Door are based on a Japanese motif. And it stirred in her memories of things that she had done. And I was asking her about, for instance, did she actually start a school for children who were deaf, who couldn't hear? And she said it wasn't because that's what she set out to do. It's just that she had people, maybe some people who worked at the ranch or some people she met who had children who couldn't hear. And when she heard about that, she wanted to make sure that there was something, a way for them to progress. And she said she started it in like maybe a little trailer at
she
first.
did. Yeah, she
and
started
eventually the
first.
government took it over. But who, okay, again, I asked, who does that? Because she cared so much about people. So that's what I also love, that she cares so much. And Barry, I have to tell you, there's a point in the film where you come on screen and the people in the audience were crying because you said at the end, you said something like, you said, I'm at the ranch because of Deborah, and I really love Deborah. You said, I really love her, and I think she really loves me. And when you say that in the film, people are just weeping. It's so beautiful, and it's so sincere, and I know what you mean. And it touched me because I've known you for years too, and I had never seen that tender side of you, except when I saw you with your daughter, of course. There was a tender side, but with this, what you said about Deborah just was very touching, and it caught the audience by surprise. So I would love to bring it to the ranch and show it at the ranch, and to the Golden Door and show it there too.
That's awesome. We're out of time, and I was going to talk about...
Oh no, already?
I know.
I didn't,
so I don't wanna-
I should have let you ask more questions.
No, it was great. I wanted to tell you that I had dinner with Deborah last night, and I asked her about the documentary, and she said, people keep saying they want to do a movie or a book on me. She goes, it's done. This has my stamp of approval. It's perfect. So she's a tough customer, let me tell you. There's been lots of books started about her. So she really liked it. So that says a lot.
I have to tell you, when she was here, it was so wonderful to spend that time with her and to see her just so relaxed and, not only going to the Art Institute, but she was interested in Chicago architecture. So we went around. I didn't get a chance to take her on an architecture boat tour, but we just sort of drove around the city to look at different buildings because I like architecture as well. And the day that we had the showing at the Chicago International Film Festival, because that's where the film made its debut, some women who had been either the Golden Door or Rancho La Puerta flew in to see the film and to see Deborah. So everyone was so excited about it and to have her here. And it was just really beautiful. The one thing I want to say is there was another interview. I was supposed to do an interview with Jack LaLanne's widow, Elaine.
Yeah.
And I still haven't been able to set that one up yet, but I would like to do that. But one of the women I told you there were two 95-year-old women in the movie, and Norman Lear, who passed away when he was 101 years old, I think. One of the other women whose daughter started something called History Makers said that, I talk about it, the youth-obsessed society. She said how inspiring it is to see women of a certain age still out doing things and inspiring people. Because Deborah, in the film, she says something like, I said, how is it now that you're on her 100th birthday, how is it now that you're 100? She said, I don't know. I'm the same as I was when I was 50 or 60 or 70 years old. Ask me when I'm 200.
Yep.
Which has really got a big laugh at the debut of the film. But that's true, because inside, we have to start thinking of aging differently. And Deborah is definitely one of those people who makes us think of aging differently and taking care of ourselves at each age and staying interested in things and curious. That's the other thing. You said what I admire about her curiosity.
She says that curiosity is her middle name, and I think that's true. And it keeps her engaged. It definitely keeps her engaged in life, and that's the secret.
Yes.
Staying engaged in life. So,
Right.
well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and I look forward to you coming back to the ranch. And I definitely want to do another interview with you where we can talk about the book you just wrote. So,
Okay. Oh, yeah. I forgot all about that.
that's like,
Okay.
and yeah, I love the book. It's
Thank
about
you.
forgiveness, emotions, compassion, and
Yes, my book
kindness.
is called It's Time to Give a FECK, FECK, Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. Something we really need more of in this society,
Oh, we need all of those in this society.
but especially now.
Yes. And I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to seeing you at the ranch, and I really look forward to seeing the documentary as well. Thank you so
Okay.
much for spending the time.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Pleasure. I found many gems in my conversation with Chaz today. Both Chaz and Deborah are inspired women with purpose. I was encouraged by their abilities to pivot and change course throughout their lives. From a lawyer and a businesswoman to someone who inspires people with books and films, that's been Chaz's pivot. For our Deborah, from starting and running world-class fitness resort spas to a 17-year career in Washington, D.C., which didn't even start till she was 60 years old. It reaffirms to me that sometimes change works out and is necessary. Deborah says, when a door opens, at least poke your nose in. Until next time, I'm wishing you health, joy, and many open doors.